far as I'm concerned.
I'm coming to it.
Okay, but you haven't addressed it yet.
If you will keep injecting me
in the circumstances,
for these
Mr.
kind of
Chang,
point of orders, then I would not be able to
Mr.
speak.
Chang,
I'm only an hour into the Justice Committee meeting, and what I have seen up to now I find to be very disturbing. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. Many of you asked me to look into Bill C-9 because you wanted my opinion on the freedom of speech concerns and the religious angle. And what I've looked at so far, I told out loud on tape, on video, that I'm not quite able to put my finger on the motivation of the Liberal government. MP Brock has illuminated the situation for me, and as I hear him speak and as I see the way the Liberals react to what he's attempting to do, I feel I understand now that it has zero to do with Bill C-9 and everything to do with their anti-crime bill that they don't want apparently anybody to have any scrutiny of, because either they will feel the way that the system that they have is tickety-boo, or there's something in the other one that is only going to benefit the Liberal Party. Either way, it turns out that they are throwing up a red herring of religion, because that's going to get a lot of religious groups in this country's attention. And a lot of religious groups in this country is a lot of votes in this country. And so they might be thinking that they can reinvigorate some of the voting, the base that they lost. However, it's more likely that by stoking this question, they will simply distract the various religious groups from looking at the real issue and the real concern. And it seems that the Conservatives are aware of that, because the Conservatives today tried to talk about something that they feel, and most of Canadians feel, from what I've heard, from what I understand from the people I've spoken to. They think that these Canadians and these Conservative MPs find that the topic of Bill C-14 to be much more significant to the cause. Now, I'm going to allow MP Brock to show you, or I'm going to show you part of MP Brock's attempt to introduce a motion, and then we'll just talk a little bit about the way things transpired. And then I'll show you what I find to be most disturbing about the entire, and I'm only probably an hour into the committee meeting. Let's jump in.
To adopt that to improve public safety in our communities and to protect Canadians from repeat and violent offenders, the Committee A immediately prioritized the consideration of Bill C-14, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act, and worked together to report the bill to the House at the earliest opportunity. To B, sit through the winter adjournment to undertake meaningful consultations with victims, community leaders, police services and associations, and other relevant witnesses. And C, pause consideration of Bill C-9 to make room on the agenda for Bill C-14. With every day that we do not, as a Justice Committee, deal with Bill C-14, more murders are going to happen in our community, more sexual assaults, more extortions, more car theft. Victims are coming through loud and clear. They want this committee.
Mr. Brock, sorry, I have a point of order, Mr. Chang.
How is this relevant to the consideration of clause by clause of C-9?
Now, when Mr. Maloney, took over this committee, he was telling the entire committee that that he didn't have to respect a point of order. Now that the Conservatives have put forward a point of order that doesn't, now that the Conservatives put forward a motion, he's stopping everything he can do, because Mr. Chang has decided that he wants to say that it's a point of order. And without any discussion, the chair decides that there's no relevance to it.
Thank you. It's not. It's not relevant at all, in fact.
Now, MP Brock needs no defending. The man is quite capable of he's quite the litigator in his own right. He has the ability to address the people that might be throwing detractions at him. He has the ability to take on all of the hate that the Liberal Party has thrown his way over the last number of years. However, so they went around and around, and Mr. Maloney decided that he was going to shut down the motion, and there was no way in the world that they were going to be allowing this motion to be introduced. And then the Block introduced his motion, which he felt that they should change something, and I'll cover that in a few minutes. In the next segment, I will cover what the Block is doing because it's ridiculous to see the way they settled it. However, all of the Conservatives tried to appeal to the chair to get him to allow the motion to be put forward because they insisted that all of their constituents are more worried about the crime and law and order than they are about whether or not particular religious groups can say whatever it happens to, whatever the thing that the Liberals are so bent out of shape about. And we came to the fourth Conservative, who is named MP Gill, who's also representing British Columbia. And I'm going to let you hear what he has to say and see the interaction, and then you'll probably understand what I mean when you watch this interaction, just how bad things are inside of this committee and how there's something there that we can now sort of understand that the motive of the Liberal Party is not anything what they claim it to be.
Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. And I would like to talk about what I am hearing in the riding where I represent. And every single person I'm speaking to is talking about that we should be looking after C-14 first because bail and sentencing is very important for all of us. And we all agree to a point that this is the legislation we have to put forward. And now we are delaying. And every single day we are delaying is causing problems in the neighborhoods, on the streets.
Point of order.
Mr. Chang?
And now that's Mr. Chang again, Mr. Burnaby, BC, Liberal member, has decided that he wants to interrupt Mr. Gill. Of course, Mr. Gill also represents British Columbia, and Mr. Maloney is now confronted with a real issue. He might tell him what, well, you'll see.
How is this relevant to the clause by clause of C9?
It's not.
It is relevant, sir.
Well,
Chair,
no,
it
because
is relevant.
you're talking about a different piece of legislation. I'm imploring you, if you want to talk about C9, which is what we're here debating, please do so. I'll give you all the time you want. We have unlimited resources as far as I'm concerned.
I'm coming to it.
Okay, but you haven't addressed it yet.
If you will keep injecting me
in the circumstances,
for these
Mr.
kind of
Chang's-
point of orders, then I would not be able to
Mr.
speak.
Chang's point of order, I've deemed appropriate. I'm going to give you the floor back. If you want to talk about this bill and this amendment, please do so.
Yeah, and it is important for us to understand what we are hearing at the ground level reality, and then we have to work accordingly. Our main purpose is to look after what people are in need at this point of time, whether it's C9 or C-14. And you know, and we all know, in fact, that extortion calls are coming every single time. You know, gun shootings are happening every single day. People are scared. You know, families are being targeted. Businesses are threatened. These are the things that we have to look after. And I would suggest strongly that we should be looking after C-14 right now, and we have to support the motion presented by my colleague, Mr. Brock, and we have to move
Point of
forward
order.
on that one.
Again, the same guy, MP Chan, who up to this point nobody's ever heard of, and you have to wonder what is he getting out of this for his particular political career.
Relevance again.
Mr. Chang?
Relevance.
I agree. Mr. Gill, you're still not talking about this bill or, more specifically, this amendment.
Mr. Chair, if that is the case, then I'll cede my time and then move on. But actually, you know, we should not be stopping anyone to speak when we are talking about the important legislation that need to be discussed at this committee meeting.
Now, to get to Mr. Gill, we had to go through about an hour of what can only be described as railroading this bill, which is exactly the same thing that he did last time. He sat down and railroaded that we start to talk about Bill C9, probably because he knew Bill C14 was on the docket and they wanted to ram it in front of that bill so that they wouldn't have to discuss their crime bill. And I know that Sean Fraser made a statement the other day which made no sense, but I will talk about that in another one. What I need you to understand is that Mr. Gill was the fourth member of the Conservatives to try and talk about this. And every single time, save once, Mr. Chan was point of order, point of order, point of order. So it went from Brock, it went to the guy beside him, it went to the guy beside him, and then finally it ended on Mr. Gill. And the chair, MP Maloney, he just wasn't listening. He was, when asked to provide the precedent that allows for him to ignore the dilatory motion put forward, he said, "You can look it up yourself." He is acting very unparliamentary. He is, in fact, ignoring all of the rules of legislation. So there's something there that he's under the pressure, he's under the strict marching orders to get Bill C9 through committee. Is going to be C9 going to be delayed because it won't get through committee, or is Bill C9 going to get through and then they will never get to Bill C14? I think the things that happen in the committee from here forward are pretty eye-opening and pretty shocking. For example, Mr. Chang votes against criminalizing the hammer and sickle, and he's from Taiwan. Like he tells himself that he represents Taiwan, if you can imagine. So we can see inside of the first hour, not only is there a lot of partisan politics, but there's a lot of trying to ram this bill through. They had an amendment on the floor that came out of the block, and it was talking about the bill specifically. However, they hadn't gotten to the vote. Now, when I do the next segment, I will talk about from that vote and anything that has happened in the next hour, because it's 8 hours and there's a lot that is going on, and we need to see all of the subtle nuances. If it comes quiet in hour 4, well, we'll discuss that when we get there. From here forward, I think we're going to find them to be debating the bill. And some of their actions and what I've looked at so far, some of them make no sense at all, not even the slightest sense. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to wrap here. You can tell me what you think down in the comments. I'll talk to you next time.